and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. We have a fabulous cooking demo today. As I mentioned, if you joined us for our Thanksgiving cook-along, we're doing it again on Christmas, but we're going to do it a little earlier so that people on the East Coast can eat earlier. We're doing it from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., so make sure you're on my mailing list so you get that shopping list and ingredient list in advance so you can cook with us. And this month, I'm featuring all the chefs that did the Thanksgiving cook-along for their whole 1-hour episode, so you can see what fabulous chefs they are, SOS free to boot. So today we have back Chef Carole Levy, who has the cutest voice I've ever heard. I've told her she should be a voiceover actress, so maybe she'll pursue that in her spare time. And she's going to be back for the Christmas show. She did a beautiful salad for the Thanksgiving show. This time she has a different course. We're mixing it up a bit, and I'm taking a course too. I'm going to do my Not Joe Grandma's fruitcake. She's going to be making soup, yet to be determined which flavor. She's a fabulous chef. I met her when I spoke in New York City at an event with Dr. Joel Furman, and it's a kind of an insult to say she was my sous chef, because she basically did everything. She's so talented. Her food is delicious. She's adorable. And today she's going to be making one of my favorite dishes, well, delicata squash, but she's going to stuff it with kale and quinoa and also do some cauliflower tabouli. So please welcome back Chef Carole Levy. It's great always to see you.
Oh, thank you so much, Chef AJ, and thank you for inviting me back. And I'm very excited. And on Thanksgiving we made delicata. We made delicata salad, and now I'm into stuffing the delicata. This is one of my very favorite squashes. So we're gonna make two things, as you said. We're making the stuffed delicata, and we're making the tabouli salad, a kind of a wintry tabouli salad, and one with cauliflower. So that will be second. But right now, what we need to do is we need to cut, and our recipe here, which I have right here on the side, is going to, the very first thing is we cut this delicata squash in half. And what's good is it's one of these squashes that actually are easy to manage. Sometimes when you get a squash, it's kind of like really hard to get a knife in it and then get the knife back out. But this is actually fairly simple to cut in half, okay? And you want to cut it in half and do a good job at it, actually, not like I'm doing at the moment. But basically, you want to cut it in half like that. And then what I do is I actually like to save the seeds, actually. So I get a big spoon, and I just get it, and I scrape it out, okay? So I just give it a good scraping, and I put those seeds, and they're soaking in water right now. And later, I will get those seeds, and I will get all their little strings off, and I will roast them in a slow oven with a bunch of spices. And then I'll use them during the week for my salads and things. So don't throw away your seeds, because it's still food. Okay, and then let's get this out. And normally when people roast things, we put the oven on at 425 degrees. Could be 400, either one is fine. You just want a really, really hot oven. So we've got our clean delicata squash here. And again, I'm just showing you our seeds. Whoops, I almost went crazy there. And those are going to sit over here for now. And normally people like to put oil in the roasting when they're roasting, but there's no need, because actually, if you were to just put these upside down, they would roast and they would turn golden brown without any oil. And I cook with no sugar, salt, or oil. So we would put these on a sheet pan and just turn them upside down. But I like to add a little bit of flavor to them. So what I usually do is I pour a little bit of orange juice. Okay, I take a little bit of orange juice, okay, like that. And then I take a little bit of cinnamon, okay, just a little bit. And I give the cinnamon a little bit of dusting, just like that. Okay, not too much. And that's going to be our flavor. And then those are going to go on a tray upside down in the oven, okay? And they'll be like this. So that is just going to be our nice flavor. And they look just like that. So let's move that. And I just want to show you that I jumped a little bit ahead. And we have some actually in the oven. And I just show you that they are already cooking. And they will be done when we need them. And the really great thing about this delicata squash is that you can eat the skin. And I love that. So those are cooking, okay? And we have shown you these, and I'm just gonna move these off to the side. And we're going to start making our filling, our stuffing. And the very first thing that I've done ahead of time is I've cooked a little bit of quinoa, okay? And I've used the beige quinoa. Quinoa comes in 3 colors. It comes in red, black, and beige. And they call the beige the natural kind. And I like a little trick that I do, and when I cook rice or when I cook quinoa, or sometimes even when I cook cauliflower, is I put a little bit of turmeric in the water, and the turmeric actually changes the color. And it kind of, so sometimes when I'm cooking rice, I'll have like brown rice, and I'll make brown rice, and then I'll make put a little turmeric in the pan, another pan, and I'll make yellow rice, and then I'll mix the two just so that you have brown and yellow rice, okay? So today we have actually turmeric quinoa, and it's for the flavor, but it's also just to change the color. Okay, so it's acting, has a double duty here. It has color and it also has flavor. So I cooked a half a cup, and I rinsed the quinoa first, and then I put it in a small pan like this, and then I put a cup of water and 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric, and I put a lid on it, and I just let it cook in about 10 to 12 minutes, and the quinoa gets done. So that's our quinoa, and that's already cooked. The other thing that's going to be in the salad is quinoa. And I just want, kale, actually. Quinoa was there. This is now kale. And I have cut up, I have cleaned a small bowl. We only need 1 cup of kale. And I cut it up really, really fine. And I just wanted to show you, I left some of these whole. And, you know, kale is one of our favorite things that we like to eat as a dark leafy green. It's very good for us. And I'm just going to show you that you just clean it off. You have to get it off the stem. Now, this is not a long stem, but usually if you go and you push backwards, so what you're doing is you're pushing backwards and you actually pull off all the kale. Today, when I went to the farmer's market, they actually had kale. He said, do you want kale in a bag without the stems, or do you want kale on the stems? And I was like, wow, you did some work for me? Like, you're gonna just provide it in the bag? And I was like, how great is that, you know? But I told him, I said, look, I can do the work. I don't mind. And he didn't know that I was doing a cooking demo and that I would want to be showing you that anyway. So these stems are technically garbage, and I throw them into the compost. So, and then what I did for this, we only need a cup, okay? So I just want to show you that this kale, I chopped really, really small, almost as if we are going to chop it for, like if we were chopping it for parsley. Okay, very, very small bites. Okay, so that way it fits into the little boat, when the boat meaning the squash, okay? And we're going to, and I always give, kale needs massaging. And so I love that. I always think, oh, okay, it's in order for it to, it's a little tough sometimes. So you just give it a little bit of massaging. Often I actually put the orange juice or a lemon juice on it at this point while I'm massaging. But that gets the kale really, really soft. So that is our kale. Now, the thing that we need to cook is our onions and our mushrooms. So I'm gonna put a pan on the stove with a flame that's like medium heat. And we're going to water or broth saute our onions and our mushrooms. And that is the way that we do it when we're not using oil. So I have a 1/4 cup of cut shallots. And if you didn't have shallots are a little milder, they're a little red, you would use a yellow onion. Okay, so you could use yellow onion, you could use red onion, or you could use a shallot, but just a small one. And it's about a 1/4 cup here. And then what I've done also is I've cut 1 cup of mushrooms, and I haven't sliced them, but I've made them very small diced, and I'm just going to show them to you here. And while we're waiting, I always like to get this pan hot. So I'm just talking to you while we're doing that. I have 2 mushrooms here, and I'm just going to show you that when you clean these mushrooms, you actually get a paper towel and you just clean them by rubbing the dirt off, okay? And that's how you would do that. And you rub that, and then the way that I cut them into small dice is a little bit how I've taken their stem off, so that they're just sitting flat. The stems actually today went in a pot that I was cooking stock, so that's back here. The way that I cut these, it's a little bit like when you cut an onion, when you cut it in a couple different directions. So I'm gonna take my knife here and just cut it in half. And then I'm going to make slices, but I'm not going all the way through. I'm leaving it intact. And then I'm gonna turn it, just make a turn, just one turn. And then I'm gonna cut it. And I end up with small diced mushrooms. And I'll show you those just in a second. But I left these two here so that you could watch. And you can never have too much mushrooms. Since COVID, I've been trying to eat a cup of mushrooms every day, at least a cup, because it's really good for our immunity. It's a true superfood. So I will show you what these mushrooms look like, but they're small diced and they look like that. So just so you can see, okay? We now have more than we need, but that's fine. Just a few extra, not gonna be, the recipes are always just guides, okay? So let's see if our pan is hot. And the way that you do that is by just putting a little water in your pan and it's starting to sizzle. So I know now that it's time to throw my onions in. And we're gonna put the onions directly in. There's not a lot, it's not just a quarter cup. And we're gonna put the onions in. And we'll also have 2 cloves of garlic. And I just want to mention about cloves of garlic because I have them way over here. But something that you want to always figure out is you want to notice that you see how some cloves are very big and some could be very, very tiny. So that all comes from the same head. So when I write a recipe or anybody writes a recipe and says 2 cloves of garlic minced, you have to kind of know and estimate and learn what is a normal size garlic. And a normal size garlic pretty much looks like that. Sometimes it's even bigger and you say, oh, that's 2 garlics in one. So if you had a bunch of little ones, you'd say, okay, well, that's gonna equal 1 garlic. So I just wanted to show you that to point that out in case you're not familiar. And we are going to get the water. So this is cooking right now. And in order to water saute, we need a little water or we need a little stock. And I have a little stock back here. So I'm just gonna put a little bit in the pan, just a very little bit. And you don't wanna put too much. You're not trying to drown them. I always say that you're kind of nursing them actually. You're just nursing them so that they're not sticking. And they're starting to cook already. You see, already they're cooking. And they're smelling good. And you might wonder, how could that be? How can you do this without the oil? Well, they really do cook and they really can caramelize. People ask me, can you get them all brown? And you certainly can, but you have to pay attention to them and you have to add a little bit more broth because I can see they're sticking just a little bit to my pan. Now at this point, I'm gonna add the garlic and I have the 2 cloves of garlic and I'm just gonna cook that for a very few minutes until the garlic doesn't smell raw anymore. I'm gonna stir that and I see a little piece of paper there that came from the stock. And the next thing that we're gonna add is our mushrooms. And this is the only cooked part of this part of the stuffing. So I'm gonna get the mushrooms that we cut here and I'm gonna put all of these mushrooms here and they're going in the pan. Oh, I could eat that just like that before it even gets into the squash. And we're gonna get rid of all these extra dishes here. Let me get rid of those. And we are gonna get a spoon to stir this. And I like holding the pan. It's always important that you hold the pan when you're stirring and cooking because you don't want anything falling off the stove. Very careful. I worked at a restaurant one time and the woman, we had oil just spill on the floor. It was so scary and dangerous. And it was because someone had left the handle out. So you always want the handle, over here, not pointing out. And I'm gonna put a little bit more broth, just a little bit. So nothing is sticking. And this is really cooking. And the mushrooms are gonna get done. And that is that part. We've also have a little bit of rosemary that's gonna go into this right now. I'm gonna put that in. That's fresh rosemary. And those of you who live in California, I feel like you have rosemary everywhere. When I lived in California, you would go to the bank parking lot and there was rosemary. I mean, rosemary was everywhere. Here I have to buy it in the store. So I'm always wishing that I had a backyard full of rosemary because it smells so heavenly. I love it so. And I tell you, just eating this would be delicious. Look how beautiful that looks. I just want to tell you that just that alone could be breakfast for me. You know, even on top of oatmeal, that would be delicious. It's just so perfect. Onions and mushrooms and fresh herbs. I love it. So in our bowl, we're gonna get a big bowl, and I'm gonna put the quinoa. I'm gonna put all my quinoa. We'll wait a moment. I'll put the quinoa in here. We're gonna make a lot of salad here. And this is still a little big, but okay, so we're wanting all this liquid here to just cook off. There's still a little bit of liquid here, and I don't really want to add that. So I'm just gonna let that dry out, and the mushrooms will be cooked, and that will be in 1 second here. The other things that are going into this salad are 2 tablespoons of pecans, and I've already chopped those, and I've rough chopped them. So you could roast them if you want in a pan, but it's not, that would give it more flavor if you wanted. But I'm gonna put the pecans in there. And I always like to look at the recipe and make sure that we're not like forgetting anything. We've done the garlic and the shallots, mushrooms, we've got the kale over there on the side, the cranberries. Okay, so this recipe I kind of made for Thanksgiving and Christmas for this time of year, and I really wanted to insert something red in with the beautiful kale. So it's up to you. We can do pomegranates. You can have dried cranberries, dried cherries, and you could even have cranberries, cherries, or pomegranates. All of them are red, and they're all in there, and they would all act pretty similar because they were kind of sweet and tart at the same time. They kind of all are similar. So I'm gonna get the mushrooms out of here right now, and they're just gonna go directly in with this quinoa. And you see there's no liquid left. The mushrooms are cooked, and that's going in there. And I like to put the kale in right now because we're not cooking the kale, but it will be kind of warm. Let's see what happens. So let's get this, and then we're going to get the kale. And technically we only need 1 cup. And so 1 cup is like probably one good, I'm gonna put a lot. Put probably 2 handfuls. We just, again, make sure that it's small. We might add more. We can look at it and see. And we're going to give this a good mix. And because the mushrooms and onions are hot, it's somewhat making the kale collapse a little bit, but not cooking it so that it's totally cooked kale. It's just wilting it a little bit. And I actually think we could use just a hair more, to tell you the truth. And we also are going to put parsley in this. So let's get that cut. And I think that's enough kale for now in this. That's looking good. And then I think we'll put, because I have so many pomegranates, we're going to put the pomegranates, just sprinkle them like that. And we need to have some parsley. And I have, parsley comes in 2 different ways. There's Italian parsley and curly parsley. And curly parsley, they both actually can be interchangeable, but I actually like black parsley better. But curly parsley, there are times when you want to have that flavor too. They are interchangeable. And let me just give this, we need just to cut it, probably about a 1/4 cup. And I never throw out these stems. They're just gonna go right into my stock pot in the back because I've been cooking stock. When I work all day and I know that I'm cooking away, I just put a big pot of water on, and the ends of the onions and the mushrooms and the parsley and sometimes the tomato, carrot, celery, all those little ends can go and make stock. And that's on the back of the stove right now. So this is going to be, we're chopping this up. And then we also have to just put a little bit of black pepper. And we are pretty much done here and just, this is gonna go into here like that. Let's get all of that. I don't like wasting any of it. It's all going in there. And this is gonna get mixed up and it's really beautiful. You can see that this salad you could serve just on your own without ever getting it into a squash. But it's today we're serving it into the squash. But you can definitely eat that.
Hey,
Yeah.
Chef Carole, thank you. Myra says, if you don't have kale, would it be okay to use spinach?
You could definitely use spinach. I'm not a fan of raw spinach personally, but you could, and you would just chop it up really small, just like the kale. Yes, spinach is just fine.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions, AJ?
I'm not seeing any right
Okay, well
now.
that's fine, no problem. Then I'm answering things as I'm going along. I always think if there's not a ton of questions, things are getting answered as I go along.
Yeah, you know what I love is Trader Joe's has delicatas all the time.
Oh my gosh, and they're so inexpensive. I bought 3 today, 3 delicata squashes for $3.50. I mean, like that's a really good deal. And you can use them if you, and I kind of bake delicata squash a little bit like I do, like you and I would do for sweet potatoes when you would do a batch cooking and you would bake like 7 at a time. I think it's a really good idea to like cook 3 delicata squashes at the same time, because then you have it for salad or you have it for, you know, throughout the week. So I look at it just like the sweet potatoes. It's part of batch cooking for us. And who, you know, I may love to cook, but there are days that I'm not in the kitchen and I like to just reach in the refrigerator and pull something out that's already done. So let's, for a moment, let's look at to see how our squashes are doing before we move on to the very next thing. And I think that they're smelling good. I can tell. And the first thing I like to do is get a fork and just like immediately, see, it goes right in. The fork goes right in, and that means that they're done, actually. It means and it's interesting that they're so shiny. And who would know that I didn't put any oil? And I'm gonna flip them over and look how pretty. They're already browning. You see, look how pretty. Just right out of the oven. Look at that. And they smell good because of the cinnamon and the orange. So I'm gonna keep those in the oven for just a very few minutes, but they're done. And I'm gonna lower the oven. I'll just keep it at warm. And we're gonna make the other salad really quickly, and then we'll plate the other, then we'll plate everything. But everyone knows the pomegranate. I'm hoping that people know what the pomegranate is and that it has over 600 little seeds. And everyone has their own way of dissecting and getting all these little seeds out. But I just wanted to show you, I left a quarter of it here, and I just wanted to be able to show you what that looked like. And I think there's like little rubies, little tiny rubies, and you take them out and they come right out. And sometimes the little paper comes with them. And when the little paper does come with them, the paper, because each segment has its own casing. And what I like to do is I always do this in a big bowl. I take a big bowl like this and I actually put the whole pomegranate inside the bowl, because what happens somehow, I don't know how, even if I'm so careful, I end up with red dots on my wall, on the ceiling, or on the refrigerator sometimes, on my apron. It just, red dots somehow just, so if you have a deep bowl, you want to like, and I sometimes even just do it in the sink. And then I actually, once I get them all out of their shell, I cover them with water. Because if you cover them with a lot of water, what happens is all the little pieces of paper, what I call paper, this is the membrane, and they all just float to the top, and then you just skim off the paper from the top. So I'm gonna take these away, and we have our pomegranates, and all of this is quite good. And we are going to just move on to the very next thing. And I'm just gonna rinse off the cutting board. Are there any questions, Chef AJ, at the moment while we go to the next dish?
Not just people are saying you explain things so well. Yeah, she's a wonderful teacher.
Oh, nice. Nice. I love that. What is important, I tell you, that is more it's about your mind is having a clean counter. I am just phonetic about always cleaning and making sure, especially between things. Of course, today we're not doing any baking. If I were baking, I would really get every single thing clean, but we're just moving on to the next savory salad. But it is important to get everything clean, because I think if you have a clean table, you have a clean mind and you're able to like think. And I feel like that's really important in the kitchen. You have to have all your wits about you. I always think that you have to be able to hear, see, taste. You use all your taste buds and your nose, all the things, and having a clear head is really important. You know, like that movie from a long time ago, water for chocolate. You know, when you're sad, if you're sad, maybe sometimes sadness goes into your food and you don't want that. So we're moving on, and we're going to now make our cauliflower tabouli, which I super, super love. And this is a head of cauliflower that I cut up so that the pieces are all relatively the same. Now, if you don't want to buy a head of cauliflower, you can buy it in a bag already cut for you. You could also buy in Trader Joe's, I know in the freezer section, you can buy riced cauliflower already. So, you know, it's kind of like step 1, step 2, step 3 when they're telling you how to exercise. You know, step 1 is level hard, easy. And it's kind of like that for everything we do here. Most things you can find already cut. You could find kale that's already cut and chopped in a bag. So that's true of the cauliflower. And also when I come home with a big head of cauliflower, I usually take it off its stem because I have a very small refrigerator. So I get it so that it's always ready like this for me. And that way, when I'm ready to cook, I just go into the refrigerator. And if I'm just having a salad, maybe I'll grab a handful, or if I'm cooking vegetables, I grab a handful. So we're going to rice this cauliflower in a Cuisinart. Now, if you don't have a Cuisinart, that's okay. You could take the whole cauliflower when it's whole and take a box grater and rub it against the big holes on the grater. You can do that. But having a Cuisinart with an S blade is very helpful, and it makes this process very, very fast. And I left this so that you could see. We're just going to put all that cauliflower in here. We're going to make a noise for just 2 minutes here, not much. And I'm going to pulse it. We're not going to let it run, but pulsing means we're going to turn it on and off. And that is rice, like in 2 seconds. And I just want to show that to you, what that looks like here. And I'll show you, it's crumbs, basically. It looks like rice. At this point, honestly, you don't ever have to cook this. This is edible just like this. And in the directions I provided, often I will take a tea towel, and I will take a tea towel, which is like a white towel like this, and I will put the cauliflower in it, and then I will squeeze all the water out of it. But I don't feel that this is so wet, and I think we can avoid that step. But there are sometimes directions where they say squeeze your cauliflower. And that happens also with zucchini. If you're like using zucchini, which is a very, very wet vegetable, that is often a process that you would do, is squeeze in a towel. So this cauliflower is going to go right into a bowl like this. And I'm going to pour all of this. Oh, and I see that I have one big chunk, but that's okay. We'll just get rid of that. I'm going to get a spatula, and I like getting it all out of here so we don't waste. None of this is wasted. I'll never forget, AJ, when we were on the Thanksgiving show, and the Scott family made the eggnog with the cauliflower, which I thought was really amazing, to have eggnog with the cauliflower.
Yeah, pretty cool.
So it was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool thing to see, something I had never done myself. So this is just going to go back over here, which is fine. Get rid of that and get rid of this bowl. So one medium-sized cauliflower, and I have 2 big pieces in there. That's okay. And in this, we're gonna put a bunch of similar things that we've just used in our first salad. And this is going to be, we're going to put raw garlic into here. So I have 2 cloves of minced garlic, and I'm putting that in here. And then we also need to have 3 to 4 scallions, and I chop those. And these are scallions, in case somebody doesn't know, but I've chopped them here, and they're going into here. And we'll put that there. And also into this salad goes 1 teaspoon of ground cumin and a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. And I'm gonna put that right there. And this winter, I call it like a winter tabbouleh. Most of the time, tabbouleh is made with cracked bulgur wheat, and many people sometimes can be allergic or don't want to eat the wheat. So that's why I like having this as a vegetable. I'm putting ground walnuts. So I'm going to put the ground walnuts right there. And we need a lot of parsley. So I've chopped up parsley here. And this is chopped parsley, and that's going in here. And as you can see in my bowl, I really like putting all the things in their own little area, because, you know, in the kitchen, you're all the time distracted. The phone rings, or you have a little kid tugging on your apron, or whatever it is that's happening. You're always distracted. So this way, if I were to look away, I would know exactly what's in my bowl. I would not have forgotten anything, because I've made little piles of things all over the place. Now we also need to have orange zest, and we need mint. And let me just get this orange, and this is our orange. Full orange, and I'm going to zest this. And I believe I discovered this and showed this last time. Usually this is the zester that you use, and usually pull like this, but I learned this new trick myself the other day that I was so proud. I was like, why didn't I ever figure this out myself earlier? But if you put it in a little ramekin like this, and you just pull, I'm just pulling towards me, okay? And I'm just rotating. It's like having a little globe, and you're just cut, just that way your hand is never in the way. And this blade, this is pretty sharp, the orange zester. Well, it's a lemon and a lime zester too. It's just a zester in general. But I'm just rotating here, and this way I don't miss anything by holding it in this cup like this, and I'm slowly turning. And I love this. See, you don't want to ever go past the very top part, because that is the sour, pithy part, and you don't want that. But we're going to get a lot of zest. And it says we need a zest from a whole orange. So that means we're going to take all of this zest and put it in to our salad. Now, usually if I'm just cutting open an orange, I always zest it first, because I think that's an ingredient, and I'll just put, like earlier I zested an orange, and I'll just put that in my refrigerator in an airtight container, and I'll use it during the week for added flavor, because when you're not using salt, it really helps to bring up the flavor. And I love this on my oatmeal in the morning as well. So never go into any citrus without giving it a little zesting, because you're kind of wasting the skin. And that's kind of my tip of that. So this is full. See, it has a ridge, and it kind of collects. And if you turn it upside down and you knock that, it all comes out, and you end up with a lot of zest. That's probably a tablespoon of zest from 1 orange. And then we need to have a whole orange squeeze that's going to go into the salad. And I'm going to cut that. And we also need to have fresh mint. And I think that's a lovely thing to have. Again, another thing that grows in people's gardens wildly and takes up a lot of space. And I feel like I could never have enough fresh mint. So I took it off its stem, and I'm just kind of gonna crunch it all together. And we're just going to give it a good chopping. And just like the parsley, And I like just showing you that so that you can kind of see. And it smells really delicious. And I love the combination of mint and parsley together. You could also, if you wanted, put some fresh dill. That definitely could go in here as well. Sometimes the more you mix the fresh herbs together, I think it just makes it a more complex dish, many more flavors. When you're cooking and you want, to use as many spices and as many fresh herbs as possible, because that's what's going to give you the freshness and the flavor. And people eat my food and say, I can't believe it's so delicious and you've put no salt in it. How could that be? Well, if you learn how to bring up flavor without using salt as your crutch, then you can learn to cook without the salt or the oil. So that's a big handful, and I'm just putting that in there. And we're going to get this whole orange squeezed, and that's also going to go in here. So we're going to get this squeezed. Oh, it doesn't seem to be such a juicy orange. So I have to work on it hard to get all the juice out. The last orange I did was much juicier. And that's going to go. And we are going to put in our tabbouleh, I think we could put the cranberries if we don't want to put we can put the dried cranberries instead of that way we're using everything that we have out. So this is the orange juice, and it's a little bit like ceviche, when you cook. This actually, because it's an acid, is going to cook the cauliflower a little bit. So I'm going to just pour all of this juice on here. This is going to go away. And then we're going to mix this up. We're going to add our cranberries, it says 1 pomegranate, but this is for color, okay? So I'm just going to visualize it here. Like this. I think that this is about a half a cup, and it looks really pretty. And we'll get this mixed up. Oh, and that cumin, the minute I started tossing this, you could smell that cumin, and it smells really, really delicious. And we always want to taste things as well. We didn't taste our stuffing. We need to make sure that it doesn't need anything else. Let's just see how this is. And we're going to get our stuff. And like I said, these are both salads. Do you see how they both look? They're both pretty, and side by side, oh my gosh, even in one bowl, they could look beautiful, and you could eat them together. And let me just give this a little taste with a spoon and see how it is, because you always have to adjust things. And the longer, it's very delicious. The longer you let this sit, the better, because the cumin and the orange juice will just start to seep in, and the zest you can really taste it. It's very, very fresh. And make sure that you don't double dip here. Never put your spoon that you put in your mouth back into your bowl. Not a good thing. So you always want to go, and I never set this down as a rule of thumb, because you never know who's coming up right behind you. I always go and I give it a good rinse. That way, if the spoon is sitting on the counter and someone comes up and just wants to taste it behind my back or something, then I know the spoon is clean. So that's pretty much both of our salads. Now we're going to plate them so that they look, and so we can see how it all comes together. We've gotten through all of that way faster than I imagined, but that's okay. Let me get the squash out of the oven. Oh, look at that. Oh my goodness, I'm going to turn the oven off, and that will be good. And those are what those look like.
Wow, that looks amazing. I mean, even if you just ate that, it would be a treat.
Well, that's the thing. That's why I'm saying we should, you could bake these ahead of time, just like we do the sweet potatoes, just get them baked. And then you can just, once they're cool, then you would put them in the refrigerator and you can eat them during the week, because these are very good sliced. when they're in a salad. I love them. And that
Kale?
would be delicious. Oatmeal too. You know, if you scrape that out and put that on top of your morning oatmeal, that would be like so fantastic. And because it's got that cinnamon, and I love it so very much.
JL is asking if you were ever a professional teacher because you explain things so well.
Oh, I think I think I've been teaching people all my life, probably. I don't know if I was a professional. I did go to school to get to be a teacher, but then I never was I never became a teacher. But I feel that I've been a teacher my whole life. And I've been cooking since I was 9. So I feel like it just all naturally comes together, teaching. And I really believe it's my passion in the way that I want people to see that they can do it too. You know, it's not just, you don't have to, you can start somewhere. You know, you can say, oh, I don't ever step in the kitchen. I don't even go to the grocery store. I don't do any of these things. And then you just have to take the first step and take the first step, and slowly you build on things. So this is what this salad looks like. I just want to show you how pretty it is. And that's just a cauliflower tabouli, but it's really lovely. And I love it. And I actually love it when it has these pretty pomegranates too. Maybe we could put double red in it, only because there's something about these pomegranates that are like having little jewels. And they're very beautiful with pistachio nuts at the holiday time. The two like get me all excited to do that. So we are going to take these squash, and they're very hot still. And you could serve this very hot, or you could serve it room temperature. It doesn't matter. Okay, and then we're gonna put these on the plate. And then this is gonna go inside the boats. And you're gonna fill that up really nicely. And try not to overfill it, but you wanna make sure that you fill it properly. And gonna get both things. I'm gonna do two of each so that you see what they look like. And I think that yellow turmeric is so pretty. I was an artist most of my life, and I'm always looking for color, because everything we all eat with our eyes, and color, and I don't think anybody would question wanting to eat this because it looks so beautiful. And I'm just going to show you how pretty it looks. And we're going to put the other two, and I have to be careful here. I almost burnt my arm because this is hot. And this is one of the things you have to learn in your little Manhattan kitchen, is how to maneuver things. And
Sharon McRae is watching and said that she's tasted your food and that it's amazing.
Who is that?
Sharon.
Oh, Sharon. I love cooking for Sharon. When the family comes to New York, I love cooking. And I don't go out of my way, but I'm very excited when the family comes and I can make a whole meal. And I think the last time, I don't know, we might have had pistachio and ice cream, because it was summertime when I remember seeing them. But it's been a long time now because we're all in this COVID where we can't be traveling. But Sharon's family, I love their family. And again, this is not normally what I would do with this tabouli, but I just want to show you that it's possible to do both things. And I think it's kind of a good idea, because I think then you have this, and then you have this. So that is our food for today, AJ. I don't know how I seem to have whizzed through everything.
I know, it didn't even take you you made a whole meal in less than 45 minutes, and it's beautiful.
Know, I think I'm getting faster than I realize that I am, you know. I'd be so happy I can come up with another one thing just to occupy our time, if you'd like. I'm just thinking what we could make. We could make some nice cream or something, but I don't think, it's kind of cold out here, and I have been staying away from eating so much nice cream. But if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Sure, guys. Do you have any questions for Chef Carole? Yeah, Mandy says it's because you're so prepared and efficient. That's why you're able to do it so quickly.
I don't know what happened. It just became so fast, you know, and would like to, I can show something else so that if you'd like, would you like that, Chef AJ, for me to?
Well, Dina's saying yes to the ice cream. I mean, you could always freeze it for a hotter day.
I could, and the thing is that you don't ever need an excuse for an ice cream, right? I mean, who needs excuse for, who needs excuse, right? And I could do that. I can do that. This is actually a good, a very good recipe. Actually, I think I have it memorized. So I'll just make it, and it's actually not even my recipe. So I have to admit that it's not my recipe, but it's a forks over knives recipe that I learned to love this summer. And it's Mexican chocolate ice cream. And I love it so very much because it gets chocolate in there. And so you're gonna have to give me a minute here, and you'll see how things work in my kitchen. It's gonna get go up here, and I'm gonna get the Vitamix down. It's gonna come down here like this. Things are not all on the counter always, and that's the Vitamix. And you know, AJ, I want to tell you, in my freezer where the bananas are often your brownies in my freezer, because when I make them, the brownies, the raw brownies that we made to, helped you when you came to New York that last year. Though Sharon calls crap sometimes, I have to admit, because they're so delicious and you have to like hold yourself from eating them. They're just dates and chocolates and walnuts, and I love them, but I keep them in the freezer. I keep them in the freezer so I forget that I have them, and I keep them in their tray, and I just put a piece of plastic over them. And so they're often at the bottom drawer where I keep my frozen bananas.
Well, you could,
they're not there today.
That brownie would make a good base for ice cream too, or you could just sprinkle it as crumbs on top.
Yes, that would be really, oh my God, that would be delicious, delicious. So let me get the bananas, and as I'm, down here, the one thing that I always have bananas. It's always good to have frozen bananas because you can't go wrong. Now this recipe, you have to have chocolate. You have to have water, and if I remember right, it's 1/3 cup of chocolate, and can't remember quite how much water, but the chocolate is in here, and somewhere is the chocolate. And you all can see my cabinet here. I have a ton. I'm a baker, and so I have a ton of flour of every sort, but I have this cacao that's in a jar here, and we have 1/3 cup and we need the cinnamon, and we need the chipotle. So this is going to be 1/3 cup, okay, 1/3 of chocolate going into the pan, okay, and put this chocolate away. Oh my gosh, I'm going to love making this so much now. I'm going to eat it like in a minute. I'm so excited that we're having ice cream. And we're going to get this plugged in a little bit far away here. And we're going to get 4 bananas out. I put them away whole. That's up to you how you freeze the bananas. I'm constantly freezing bananas, because I like buying them. In New York here, you buy them on the street. And often if you buy them late in the day here, the guy will just be wanting to get rid of them, but you get them 5 for $1. So it's like such a deal. So these are 4, I'm going to use 4 bananas. Okay, and they're very frozen. I'm going to put these away. And then we need to have water with the chocolate, and that's just going to melt. And we're going to put like 1/3 of a cup of water. And we're just going to put the burner on. And the whole idea of putting the water and the chocolate together is just so that it all kind of melts together. And let's just get the knife clean. Just a second.
Oh, excuse me.
And I hate having this here. This always worries me a lot. And you know what I didn't get down, and you can see how I managed to do things here. I didn't get down the tamper. This tamper is everything because you need. There's noise happening in the background. It's so exciting. There it is. crazily noise. Things are disastrous over behind the cameras here. So I'm just mixing this water and chocolate. Okay, we're just melting that, and that's on a really very, very low flame. And we're gonna cut these bananas. I just want you to see these bananas here. Okay, if you want, when you freeze the bananas, you can cut them ahead of time. But the reason I leave them whole, I really leave them whole for a reason, so that I know how many bananas they are. You know, if you cut them and you just put them away, then you don't know exactly how many you have. So that is 4 bananas. And we're making sure we're watching the chocolate at the same time. And I think we need a teaspoon of cinnamon. Okay, this is going in here, bananas. Okay, and then we're gonna get this chocolate. This is melted really nicely already. And you're supposed to let this cool, but I seem to never be willing to wait to do that. So let's just get this really mixed. You don't want any bumps, and you want all that chocolate. You don't want any sitting along the side. And we need to have 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. You can tell that I've made this so many times that I need a half a teaspoon of cinnamon. And you also need to have, a half a teaspoon is right here. And a half a teaspoon of cinnamon is, where did my cinnamon go? It's just disappeared. Here it is, right here, right here. I'm gonna put a half a teaspoon of cinnamon right into the chocolate. And then you need to have chipotle and a little bit of vanilla, a whole teaspoon of vanilla. So let's just get that into the chocolate as well. We're gonna put 1 teaspoon. This is a half that sometimes I don't bother. If I've already dirtied something and that was a dry ingredient, now I'm putting a wet ingredient. So this is a half. We need 1 teaspoon. Okay, so that's 1 teaspoon. And then it says that we need to have a hot chipotle or chili powder. And it calls for a lot in the recipe. It calls for 1 teaspoon, but I never do 1 teaspoon because it's just like, one reason I don't do 1 teaspoon is because I have fresh chipotle powder and it's really, really hot. So I just use a 1/4 teaspoon. I err on the really cautious side of the chili, but you want that chili in there because it's the cinnamon and the chili that give it that, you know, Mexican flavoring. So you can always go back and put more. So we're gonna put our lid on here. We're gonna get this going. Let's just get the bananas. I don't know, hopefully you can see from there. And we're gonna turn this on. Okay, at this point, at this very given moment is when I put in the chocolate. And you've just gotten the bananas started. And again, if you have patience to wait for the chocolate, you can, but who has patience? I don't. And I don't know very many people that have patience. So I'm gonna put this chocolate in like this. I'm gonna get it all in the pan, all of it out. Scrape it really well, okay? You don't ever, it's important to have the right tools. This is a nice little spatula and I've gotten all the chocolate out, okay? Of course, if you know, you don't want kids eating this chocolate because this chocolate has no sugar. So no one wants to lick this out. Definitely. This is not a lickable thing. So that pan goes there. We put the lid back on and we've got everything there. Now I want to show this to you where we're at this very second. Okay, let's just lift this off and show you. It's not 100% mixed, but I just want to show you that we're there, almost there. And this is a tip here with when you have the tamper in the top, I always get a glass out like this. I get a glass out and I literally put this upside down like that because I don't want it rolling all over the place and I can't stand when it just is on the counter rolling. That's my little tip when you're like in a holding position. And then there's a great spatula for the Vitamix. I found it at Sur La Table. It's a needle nose, what you call a needle nose spatula. It's a little curved. It's really hard as a rock, and it gets into the bottom. And that's the thing with the Vitamix, is you always want to get things mixed up. Now I want to show you what this ice cream looks like. Right this very second, it looks like that. I'm going to put it back on for very, very, very few seconds, just a very few seconds, and get it finished mixing. And we'll just get it finished mixing. And of course, we have to taste it, right? We never can not taste it, because this is something that where you could add more of the chipotle powder if you wanted it spicier. So I'm going to just give it a little bit of taste. It's delicious. Ooh, there's the chipotle powder just in the back of your mouth. Like it is absolutely delicious. I'm going to rinse that off, just kind of treating it just like my spoon. And we can plate that. I just want to show you again. I'm going to put this in the cup, which is right here. I'm gonna move this cinnamon out of the way. I'm gonna move this lid out of the way. And I wanna just show you how thick and yummy that is. It's like, it is soft serve, okay, but that's ice cream. Oh God, I could eat this all. I'm so happy we had extra time, AJ.
That looks amazing. I mean, it looks so incredibly creamy.
So creamy and so yummy. And there are two ways that I actually serve this. Two ways. I have these great containers. I'll show you. They're in here. I store them. I eat ice cream so often. It's a little bit crazy. There are these little tiny containers that Tabbouleh makes. They actually make a big one, a 4-quart one. I have that in there too. In New York here, you store things everywhere. And so those things were in my dishwasher. So I usually put all of this away like this. And this way I can have it for a snack later. And everything gets full. I'm just gonna show that, a couple of those. And this is, I think, 8 ounces of, each cup is 8 ounces. So I feel like that is my treat sometimes, and I'll put a little bit of, I don't know, strawberries. You could put blueberries on top, whatever you'd like. I'm gonna rinse that off. And these little chocolate cups have colored lids, really pretty colored lids. So they go on top. And I'll just put one on top and leave that there. Move that. And then here's a little bowl. And if I don't have the ice cream scoop, but I have this, and we're just gonna put that in.
People are asking what the name of the spatula is and where you get it. And I'm posting, I found the recipe for the nice cream on Forks Over Knives, and I'm posting that in the chat.
Good. Thank you for doing that.
And I'm posting it in the chat, and I'm posting it in the show notes. Guys, you keep asking where the recipes are. Same place they always are. They're in the show notes, but you can only see them on YouTube. You've got to look under the video.
This is the ice cream, and I don't have, oh, you know what would be, well, you know what? I don't have any special fruit. I have frozen berries that I could put on top, but I do have a beautiful, beautiful blood orange. So we could just decorate, I would usually put a little bit of mint. I don't know if you can see how beautiful these blood oranges are. I mean, they set my heart like on fire. They're so crazily beautiful. And I'm just peeling the membrane off of it. Okay, and I think it would be good. Orange and chocolate actually go very well together. And I'm just gonna trim that. And we could take it out of its segments, but I'm just doing this for decoration, to tell you the truth. And we'll put the orange like that. And let's just move all this and move all this away. And there, that's an orange. We'll move that away. And the spatula, I know that you just asked me about the spatula, and the spatula comes from Sur La Table. And you'll just look up, you could probably look up a Vitamix spatula. because really that's what it's made for. It's the only place that I have found it is at Sur La Table. And this is everything. So we have the squash, we have two kinds of stuffings, two salads, a cauliflower tabouli, we have the kale and the quinoa. We stuffed both of them. You could eat both of them separately if you'd like. And then we quickly made Mexican chocolate ice cream, which is to die for. And I love it so much. And of course it's delicious. I mean, there's no way that it's, it really hits the spot. Chocolate hits the spot. That's all there is to it, you know, and you can't have anything healthier. This is bananas. Bananas, that's it. You can't be guilty here on eating this kind of ice cream. And we call it nice cream in our world because it's nice to your body.
Yeah, I love it. Well, if you guys can't get enough of Carole, come back Christmas Day when she's going to be part of the 7-chef SOS free cook along. I just posted the link to my website so you can sign up and get all the ingredients in advance and the shopping list. And she's going to be doing a wonderful soup this time.
Thank you, Chef AJ, for inviting me today. And I'm so excited about Christmas. I hope everybody comes because we have such a great lineup, and it's going to be, and we're cooking a full meal from appetizer to all the way through to your fruit cake.
Absolutely. Yeah. And 5 of the chefs are coming back, and we've got 2 new ones. So we hope you guys will come, and I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you so much for doing such a wonderful presentation and showing that not just plant foods can be delicious, but whole plant foods without sugar, oil, salt. People just don't realize how good our food tastes.
I know. And people ask me, Chef AJ, like, how do you do it? You must eat so, you know, your world must be so narrow. And I think, no, it's so wide. My world is so wide that I eat so much that I never feel narrow.
Yeah, well, I could listen to you all day. I just love your voice. Now get that demo reel together so we can give it to Vanessa so you can start doing some voiceovers.
All right. Thank you so much for having me on. Thank you to all your guests, and we'll see you at Christmas Day.
Absolutely. And thanks all of you again for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back tomorrow where we have another wonderful culinary presentation. We're doing lots of these in December because we know you guys want holiday recipes, and we have a chef all the way from England who has her own television show. Her name is Curly Sue, and she's going to be making an oil-free butter bean and lentil curry. Thanks again, Carole. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Talk to you later.